You do not change your life in one dramatic moment. You change it in the direction of what you keep repeating. Most people think their problem is that they need a bigger goal, more motivation, or a stronger emotional push. But that is not the real problem. The real problem is that their daily life is being shaped by small, repeated behaviors that do not match the future they say they want. They want clarity, but they keep repeating noise. They want discipline, but they keep repeating comfort. They want progress, but they keep repeating delay. The hidden enemy is not a lack of desire. It is a life built on weak repetition. In this audiobook, you will see why big goals are not enough, why habits shape identity, and why real change begins when you stop chasing intensity and start designing better systems. This is the shift from living by impulse to living by structure, from hoping your life will change to training it in a new direction. Stay with me, because this is where your future stops being a wish and starts becoming a pattern. Chapter 1. Small Habits. Big Direction. You do not change your life on the day you feel the most motivated. You change your life in the direction of what you keep repeating. That is the truth most people avoid because it sounds too simple. They want to believe real change begins with a big speech, a perfect plan, a powerful promise, or one dramatic decision. But your life is not built by rare emotional moments. Your life is built by repeated behavior. A small action does not look dangerous when you see it once. Staying up a little too late does not feel serious. Scrolling a little longer does not feel costly. Skipping one workout does not feel like a turning point. Eating one careless meal does not look like a life problem. Reading one page does not look life-changing. Writing for 10 focused minutes does not look impressive. But that is exactly why habits are so powerful. They do not demand your attention in a dramatic way. They work quietly. They work in the background. They keep working while you are busy chasing bigger moments. A plane can be off by only a few degrees and still land in a completely different place. Your life works the same way. A small, repeated drift leads to a different destination. A small, repeated correction leads to a different future. That is why you must stop judging your actions only by how they look today. Judge them by the direction they are training. Every action teaches you something. Every action leads you somewhere. Every action is a vote for a future you may not see yet. If you repeat distraction, you train distraction. If you repeat delay, you train delay. If you repeat discipline, you train discipline. If you repeat focus, you train focus. That is why little things are never really little when they happen often. The world talks a lot about big outcomes, big money, big success, big transformation, big confidence, big results. But those things are usually the visible end of an invisible chain. Before the result became obvious, the repetition was already there. Before the confidence showed up, the daily keeping of promises was already there. Before the body changed, the meals, the training, and the small choices were already there. Before the work became excellent, the quiet hours of doing the work were already there. Results are loud, habits are quiet. That is why weak people chase results and ignore habits. They want the visible reward without respecting the invisible process. Do not make that mistake. 1% better does not feel exciting today. 1% worse does not feel dangerous today. That is why most people do not take either seriously. But compounding does not care about your emotions. It does not care whether you are impressed. It cares what you repeat. Improve a little and repeat it long enough, and your life starts to bend upward. Neglect a little and repeat it long enough, and your life starts to bend downward. The difference is not always visible at first. That is what makes this so serious. You can move in the wrong direction for a long time before the pain becomes obvious. You can also move in the right direction for a long time before the progress becomes obvious. That is why you need maturity. That is why you need patience. That is why you need to stop worshiping instant proof. You do not need to wait for a dramatic collapse to admit your habits are hurting you. You do not need to wait for some perfect success story to start building better ones. You need to get honest now. What are you repeating? What are you normalizing? What are you allowing every day that is quietly training your future? Most people think their problem is that they need a bigger dream. That is not the main problem. The main problem is that their current life is being run by small, repeated behaviors that do not match the life they say they want. They say they want clarity, but they repeat noise. They say they want strength, but they repeat comfort. They say they want progress, but they repeat avoidance. They say they want confidence, but they repeat self-betrayal. You cannot build a strong life with weak repetitions. You cannot build a disciplined future with daily disorder. You cannot say one thing and repeat another, then expect your life to respect your words more than your habits. Your habits always speak louder than your goals. Your habits always tell the truth about the direction of your life. That is why this chapter matters. If you do not respect the power of small repeated action, you will keep waiting for a breakthrough while your ordinary days train the wrong future. Stop waiting for a life-changing moment. Start respecting life-changing repetition. Stop asking whether today felt big. Ask whether today moved you in the right direction. Stop dismissing small disciplines as if they are beneath you. They are not beneath you. They are building you. The person you become will be shaped by what you repeat when nobody is watching, when no applause is coming, when the result is still invisible, and when the work still feels small. That is where your real direction is decided. That is where your future is being voted on. So take your small actions seriously. Guard them. Clean them up. Repeat the ones that build you. Cut the ones that weaken you. Your life is not drifting by accident. It is being directed by habit. Own that truth. Respect that truth. Then use that truth. From this point on, you do not get to call a repeated action small if it is shaping your future. Chapter 2. Why big goals are not enough. Now you need to face the next mistake. Many people already know they want a better life. They have goals. They have vision boards. They have promises. They have bold plans for the next month, the next year, the next version of themselves. They say, tomorrow I will be different. This month I will be disciplined. This year I will transform. Then the same pattern returns. The excitement fades. The old routine comes back. The phone wins again. Comfort wins again. Delay wins again. The person feels confused because the goal was real. The desire was real. The intention was real. So what went wrong? The answer is simple. A goal can point you somewhere, but it cannot carry you there. A goal can create a beginning, but it cannot create a repeatable day. A goal can give you a target, but it cannot tell you what to do when you are tired, distracted, discouraged, busy, bored, or tempted. A goal is not useless. Do not misunderstand that. Goals matter. Goals create direction. Goals can raise your standards. Goals can give your effort meaning. But goals are not enough because they do not solve the real battle, which is daily repetition. The real battle is not deciding what you want once. The real battle is building a structure that keeps you acting in alignment after the emotion of wanting has cooled down. That is where most people lose. They treat change like a declaration instead of a design. They think intensity can do the job structure was supposed to do. It cannot. You can be deeply inspired and still fail if your daily life keeps feeding the same old pattern. You can want success and still live in a system that produces distraction. You can want health and still live in a system that produces convenience and overeating. You can want focus and still live in a system that produces interruptions and scattered attention. That is why two people can want the same outcome and still get very different results. Two people can both want to get in shape. Two people can both want to read more. Two people can both want to stop wasting time. Two people can both want to become disciplined. The goal does not separate them. The system does. The person with the better system wins more often, not because they always feel better, but because their life is set up better. This is what you must understand if you are serious about change. You do not stay at the level of your hopes for very long. You fall back to the level of your systems. If your system is weak, your results will be unstable. If your system is strong, your progress can survive bad moods, tired mornings, and ordinary human weakness. That is what you need, not a superhuman version of yourself, a repeatable structure, a better default, a life design that makes the right action easier to repeat. Most people keep asking, how do I stay motivated? That is the wrong question. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It gets loud and then disappears. The better question is, what carries me when motivation leaves? If the answer is nothing, then your goal is standing on air. You are depending on emotion to do the work of architecture. That is a losing strategy. You do not need to love every day. You do not need to feel powerful every morning. You do not need to be fired up all the time. You need a way of living that keeps the right behavior moving even when your feelings go quiet. That is why systems matter. A goal says what you want. A system decides what you repeat. A goal gives you a finish line. A system gives you a daily path. A goal can make you dream. A system makes you move. And movement is what changes a life. So stop being impressed by the size of your goal if your days do not support it. Stop judging yourself by what you intend and start judging your structure by what it allows. Stop asking whether your dream is big enough. Ask whether your daily life is built well enough to support it. That is the shift. That is the maturity. That is the moment change becomes real. From here on, your job is not to become someone who keeps announcing a new beginning. Your job is to become someone who can repeat the right things long enough for life to bend. Goals can start the fire. Systems keep it burning. Goals can inspire a promise. Systems protect the promise after the excitement is gone. So keep your goals but do not worship them. Respect them by building what they require. Build a life that helps the right actions happen again. Build a structure that works on ordinary days. Build a way of living that does not collapse the moment life gets hard. That is how real progress begins. Not when you want more, when you build better. Chapter 3. Stop chasing results. Change your identity. Most people try to change their lives by staring at results. They want to lose weight. They want to read more books. They want to become disciplined. They want to build a business. They want to stop wasting time. They want the outcome. They want visible proof. They want the finish line. That is where they begin, and that is usually where they get stuck. When your whole mind is locked on results, your mood rises and falls with the scoreboard. When progress is visible, you feel powerful. When progress is slow, you feel weak. When you win for a few days, you feel confident. When you slip once, you feel like a failure. That is not stable change. That is emotional gambling. You are tying your commitment to short-term evidence, and short-term evidence is often incomplete. A result is not useless. A result can give direction. A result can give you something to aim at. But it is not the deepest layer of change. It is only the surface. Under the result is the process. Under the process is identity. Outcome is what you want to have. Process is what you do. Identity is who you believe you are. Most people never go deep enough. They stay on the outside. They keep asking, what do I want to achieve? That is not the strongest question. The stronger question is, who do I want to become? Because the deepest form of change is not getting a different score. It is becoming a different person. You can force behavior for a short time with pressure. You can push yourself with fear. You can get excited by a deadline. You can ride a wave of motivation for a week or a month. But if the action never becomes part of how you see yourself, it will always feel borrowed. It will always feel temporary. It will always feel like something you are trying on instead of something you own. Real change becomes stronger when behavior is tied to identity, because people naturally protect the version of themselves they believe is true. A person who says, I am trying to read, can stop when life gets busy. A person who says, I am a reader, feels a deeper conflict when they keep neglecting books. A person who says, I am trying to work out, can make excuses. A person who says, I do not miss training, has a different standard. A person who says, I want to write more, is still negotiating. A person who says, I am a writer, has already begun building a different self-image. That is why identity matters. Behavior that supports identity has more staying power than behavior that only chases a result. When the goal is only external, the habit feels like a tool. When the goal becomes internal, the habit becomes proof. That is the shift you need. You do not just need better goals. You need a new self-definition that your daily actions can reinforce. But here is the mistake many people make. They want the identity before the evidence. They want to feel disciplined before they live with discipline. They want to see themselves as focused before they protect focus. They want to call themselves strong before they endure discomfort. They want the language of a new identity without the repetitions that build it. Life does not work that way. Identity is not gifted. Identity is earned through evidence. You do not become a disciplined person because you say the words. You become that person because you keep enough promises to yourself that the words stop feeling fake. You do not become focused because you admire focus. You become focused because you keep cutting off what weakens your attention and keep returning to what matters. You do not become healthy because you want health. You become healthy because your days begin to carry proof that health is no longer optional. That is why chasing results alone is such a weak strategy. Results are late. Results can disappear. Results can be delayed. Results can mislead your emotions in the short term. Identity goes deeper. Identity asks for a different kind of honesty. What kind of person is being trained by the life I keep repeating? Not what do I hope happens in 6 months. Not what do I wish other people saw. Not what outcome would make me feel good. Who am I becoming through my repeated behavior? That question is harder. That question is cleaner. That question reaches the root. You need to stop measuring your life only by visible outcomes and start measuring it by identity evidence. Did you act like the person you claim you want to become? Did you move like that person today? Did your actions support that identity or betray it? Your future will not be built by what you admire. It will be built by what you repeat. Stop worshiping the result and neglecting the self that must carry it. A result without identity is fragile. A new lifestyle without a new self-image is unstable. So from this point forward, change the center of the game. Do not only ask what you want to get, ask who you need to become. Do not only set goals that impress you, build standards that shape you. Do not chase an outcome like a spectator. Build an identity like a worker. The strongest change does not begin when you decide what you want. It begins when you decide who you are willing to become, and then start giving that identity real evidence. Chapter 4. Every habit is a vote for the person you become. Once you understand that identity matters more than outcome, you need a practical way to live that truth. Otherwise, it stays abstract. Otherwise, it becomes another idea you agree with and never use. The practical truth is simple. Every habit is a vote for the person you become. Not every action changes your life in one day. Not every choice transforms you on the spot. But every repeated action casts evidence in one direction or another. This matters because many people think change is invalid unless it looks dramatic. They think one workout is too small, one page is too small, one honest hour of work is too small, one day without scrolling is too small. Then they use that logic to stay stuck. They keep waiting for a big move because they are too proud to respect a small one. That is how people lose years. They dismiss the very actions that could have changed them because those actions did not look impressive on the day they began. You must stop thinking like that. One action does not define you forever, but it does mean something. One workout does not make you an athlete, but it is a vote for being the kind of person who trains. One page does not make you wise, but it is a vote for being the kind of person who learns. One deep work session does not make you great, but it is a vote for being the kind of person who protects focus. One meal does not make you healthy, but it is a vote for being the kind of person who respects the body. The point is not that one action completes the identity. The point is that one action contributes to it. That should free you and challenge you at the same time. It should free you because you do not need to become perfect in one day. It should challenge you because you no longer get to treat daily actions as neutral. They are not neutral. They are votes. They are signals. They are proof. This is how identity is really built, not through one giant achievement, through enough repeated evidence that a new story becomes believable. You become what you repeatedly prove. That is why perfectionism is such a trap. Perfectionism tells you that if you miss once, the identity is broken. If you fail today, you are fake. If you slip once, all progress is gone. That is a lie. Missing one workout does not make you weak. Skipping one reading session does not make you lazy. Losing one focused day does not make you hopeless. One negative vote does not erase the direction unless you let it become a pattern. What matters is not one moment in isolation. What matters is the trend. What matters is the pile of evidence you are building over time. At the same time, do not use that truth as permission to drift. One vote may not define you, but many votes in the same direction eventually do. A small repeated choice becomes a self-description. A repeated excuse becomes a personality. A repeated discipline becomes a standard. That is why you must care about the ordinary day. The ordinary day is where most votes are cast. Not in a crisis, not in a dramatic turning point. In quiet moments, in the morning, in the hour nobody sees, in the decision to begin, in the decision to stop, in the decision to come back. You do not need to ask whether today was extraordinary. Ask whether today gave the right identity another vote. That is the question that makes progress realistic. It also makes progress honest, because now the game is not about pretending. It is about evidence. Have you been voting for the person you say you want to become? Or have you been voting against that person while still talking like you are committed? That is the real test. Stop demanding giant proof before you move. Stop using one imperfect day to deny a new direction. Stop waiting until you feel fully changed before you act changed. The action comes first. The evidence comes first. The vote comes first. Then the identity grows stronger. Then belief catches up. That is how this works. You do not think your way into a new self first. You act your way into one through repetition. So let go of the need to be perfect. That is not the goal. The goal is to keep casting votes in the right direction. Enough votes for discipline. Enough votes for focus. Enough votes for strength. Enough votes for honesty. Enough votes for follow-through. Enough votes for becoming someone your future can trust. That is how real change becomes sustainable. Not by one burst of effort that collapses, by repeated proof that the new identity is no longer an idea. It is becoming your pattern. From today on, stop asking, was this action big enough? Ask, was this a vote for the person I am building? If it was, then it counts. And if you keep casting enough votes in the same direction one day, the identity you once wanted will become the identity you have earned. Chapter 5. The 4-step loop behind every habit. If you want to stop being controlled by habits you do not understand, you need to stop treating habit like magic. You need to stop treating it like fate. You need to stop treating it like proof that you are weak, broken, or lazy. A habit is not a mystery. A habit is a loop. It is a mechanism. It follows a pattern. And once you see that pattern clearly, you stop feeling helpless. You start seeing where the cycle begins, why it keeps repeating, and where you can break it. Every habit, good or bad, runs through the same 4-step loop. Cue. Craving, response, reward. This is how behavior gets repeated. This is how your brain learns what to do again. The first step is the cue. A cue is the trigger. It is the thing that catches your attention and starts the pattern. It can be a sound, a place, a time of day, a notification, a feeling, a person, or a moment of discomfort. The phone buzzes. That is a cue. Your mind goes blank while working. That is a cue. You walk into the kitchen at night. That is a cue. You sit on the couch. That is a cue. You feel stressed. That is a cue. Most people think they are making free decisions in those moments, but many times they are just reacting to cues they no longer notice, because the pattern has become familiar. That is why habits can feel automatic. The cue shows up first. Then comes the craving. This is where the habit gains power. The cue by itself does not move you. The craving does. You do not want the phone buzz itself. You want the relief of knowing who messaged you. You do not want junk food just because it exists. You want the pleasure, the comfort, the escape, the reward you believe it will give. You do not open social media because your thumb has no choice. You open it because some part of you expects relief, stimulation, novelty, distraction, or a break from discomfort. Craving is the meaning your brain attaches to the cue. It is the desire for a change in state. That is why two people can face the same cue and respond differently. One person sees a couch and reads. Another sees the same couch and turns on a show. The object is the same. The learned association is different. Then comes the response. This is the behavior itself. This is what you do. You pick up the phone. You eat the food. You open the app. You go for a walk. You sit down and write. You stretch. You scroll. You delay. you begin. The response is the visible action, but it only happens if the craving is strong enough and the behavior feels doable enough. If the action seems too hard, too annoying, too unclear, or too costly, the loop can stop there. That matters because behavior is not only about desire, it is also about friction. People do not just do what is good. They often do what is easy. They do what is available. They do what is already built into the day. The final step is the reward. This is the payoff. This is what teaches the brain whether the loop was worth repeating. The reward may be pleasure, relief, comfort, certainty, pride, progress, or even just the end of tension. When the reward lands, the brain remembers. It begins to connect that reward back to the cue. That is how repetition becomes stronger. That is how habits get wired deeper. The next time the cue appears, the brain expects the same reward and the cycle pulls harder. That is why bad habits can become so sticky. They often offer fast rewards. A scroll gives quick stimulation. A snack gives quick pleasure. Avoidance gives quick relief. Delay gives quick comfort. The cost comes later, but the reward comes now. Good habits often work the opposite way. The reward is delayed. Reading does not make you wiser in one night. Training does not transform your body in one session. Writing does not build mastery in one page. The action may feel effortful now, while the reward stays far away. That is why people think good habits require some special character. Not always. Often, they simply require better design that can survive delayed rewards. But first, you need to understand the loop. Because once you see it, you stop making one critical mistake. You stop seeing habit as random. You stop saying, "This is just how I am." You stop reducing the problem to morality. A bad habit does not automatically mean you are a bad person. A good habit does not appear just because you know the right thing. Your brain is learning through repeated loops. That means your current behavior is not only a matter of intention, it is a matter of mechanism. And mechanism can be changed. Look at your own life. What cue starts the behavior? What craving is being activated? What response do you keep repeating? What reward teaches your brain to come back? That is the level where change becomes real, not at the level of vague guilt, not at the level of big promises, at the level of pattern recognition. Your habits are not controlling you because they are mysterious. They are controlling you because they have been repeated long enough to feel normal. Break that illusion. Study the loop. Name the trigger. Name the desire. Name the behavior. Name the payoff. Because the moment you can read the loop, you are no longer trapped inside it in the same way. You are standing outside it. You are seeing its structure. And once you can see the structure, you can start redesigning it. Chapter 6. You do not need more willpower. You need a better system. Now that you understand the loop, you need to face another truth that should relieve you and challenge you at the same time. Your main problem is not that you are missing some heroic amount of willpower. Your main problem is that your current system keeps feeding the behavior you say you want to stop. This matters because many people are trapped in the same cycle of self-judgment. They fail to keep a habit. They lose focus again. They go back to the phone, the food, the delay, the old routine. Then they say the same thing: I need to be stronger. I need more discipline. I need to try harder. That sounds noble, but most of the time it is incomplete. Trying harder inside a bad system is a weak strategy. If the cues stay the same, if the temptations stay visible, if the friction for good behavior stays high, and if the reward for bad behavior stays immediate, then you are asking willpower to win a fight that structure keeps rigging against you. That is why relying on willpower alone fails so often. Willpower is unstable. It changes with sleep, stress, mood, energy, context, and time of day. It can help for a moment, but it is a poor foundation for a life. You cannot build a repeatable future on a resource that rises and falls every few hours. You need something stronger. You need a system. A system is what shapes behavior before the moment of decision becomes a dramatic battle. A system is how your environment, your cues, your setup, your routines, and your defaults either pull you toward the right action or drag you back to the old one. That is why some people seem more disciplined than others. Not always because they are made of different material, often because their lives are designed differently. The good action is easier to start. The bad action is harder to reach. The cue is visible. The friction is lower. The default is cleaner. They are not depending on constant inner speeches to save them. They are building a daily structure that makes the right action more likely. That is what you need to do. Stop making every habit a test of character. Start making it a question of design. If your phone is always near your hand, your system is teaching distraction. If junk food is visible and easy to reach, your system is training impulse. If your reading habit depends on remembering it in the middle of a chaotic night, your system is weak. If your work begins only after you feel inspired, your system is broken. This is not about blaming the world. It is about seeing clearly. Behavior does not happen in empty space. It happens in a structure. It happens in context. It happens in an environment that either supports your values or sabotages them. So stop wasting time hating yourself for losing battles you keep setting up badly. Self-blame without redesign changes nothing. Shame without structure changes nothing. Repeating that you need to be better changes nothing if the environment still keeps handing power to the old habit. You do not need to become a superhuman version of yourself. You need to build conditions that help the normal version of you do the right thing more often. That is the shift. That is the relief. And that is the responsibility. Because from this point on, you do not get to hide behind vague motivation anymore. You know better now. If the current structure keeps producing the current behavior, then the answer is not to keep begging yourself for more willpower. The answer is to change the structure, change the cue, change the friction, change the setup, change the path of least resistance, change what is visible, change what is easy, change what gets rewarded. That is how behavior begins to move. This is where the book turns from understanding to design, from philosophy to action, from insight to intervention. The next step is not to want harder. The next step is to build smarter. Make the good habit more obvious. Make it more attractive. Make it easier. Make it more satisfying. Do the reverse for the bad one. That is the real work. Not waiting to become stronger first. Building a system that helps strength appear through repetition. So leave this chapter with one clear decision. Stop calling yourself weak every time your bad structure wins. Call the problem by its real name. Then change it. You do not need more willpower. You need a better system. Chapter 7. Make good habits easy to see. Most people think their habits come from deep decisions. That is flattering, but it is often false. A huge part of your daily behavior is pulled by what is visible, what is near, what is easy to notice, and what keeps showing up in your line of sight. You do not reach for your phone every time because you made a thoughtful decision. You often reach for it because it is there. It is bright. It is close. It is alive in your pocket, on your desk, beside your bed, next to your hand. Your environment starts speaking before your discipline even gets a chance to answer. That is why the first law matters so much. If you want a good habit to live, it must become obvious. If you want a bad habit to weaken, it must stop standing in front of your face all day. You cannot keep surrounding yourself with cues for distraction and then act surprised when distraction keeps winning. You cannot keep letting your environment advertise the wrong behavior and expect your future to stay clean. What you see often, you think about often. What you think about often, you are more likely to do. That is reality. Stop pretending you are above it. Start designing for it. The first step is brutal honesty. Before you change anything, you need to see what is already running your life. This is where a habit scorecard becomes useful. Not because writing things down is magical, but because most people are living inside patterns they no longer notice. They wake up, check the phone, delay getting up, rush the morning, skip water, open notifications, drift into noise, react all day, snack when stressed, collapse at night, scroll again, sleep late, repeat. And because that sequence feels normal, they stop seeing it clearly. That is dangerous. What stays invisible stays in control. A habit scorecard forces you to name what is actually happening. From the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, what do you keep repeating? Which actions are helping you? Which ones are neutral? Which ones are quietly weakening your focus, your health, your work, and your self-respect? Do not write what you wish your day looked like. Write what it really looks like. Name the order. Name the cues, name the drift, name the parts that happen automatically. Because once you can see the pattern, you are no longer trapped in vague frustration. You are looking at a map, and a map can be redesigned. The next move is to stop depending on vague intention. Saying, "I will read more" is weak. Saying, "I will work out more" is weak. Saying, "I will be more focused" is weak. Those sentences sound positive, but they leave too much room for avoidance. They sound committed, but they are still fog. A better system uses implementation intention. The formula is simple. I will do this behavior at this time in this location. Not someday, not later, not when life calms down. At a specific time, in a specific place. This matters because vague goals leave behavior floating. Specific plans anchor it. I will read for 10 minutes at 7 p.m. in the chair by the window. I will stretch for 5 minutes after brushing my teeth in the bathroom. I will write for 20 minutes at my desk right after my morning coffee. Now, the habit has shape. Now, it has a cue. Now your brain does not have to keep reopening the decision. You are reducing friction before the moment arrives. And that matters because the more decisions your habit requires, the easier it is to avoid. Then comes habit stacking. This is where you stop trying to grow a new behavior in empty air. You attach it to something that already exists. After I pour my coffee, I will write one sentence. After I sit down at my desk, I will open the draft first. After I brush my teeth, I will do 10 squats. After I eat lunch, I will walk for 5 minutes. The point is not to create something dramatic. The point is to create a reliable bridge. Your current life is already full of repeated actions. Use them. Let an old habit carry the cue for a new one. Stop making each new behavior start from zero. Then, you need to deal with the environment directly. This is where people get lazy in their thinking. They want better behavior without changing what surrounds them. They want to read more while the book stays hidden in a drawer. They want to eat better while junk food stays visible on the counter. They want to work deeply while notifications light up the screen every few minutes. They want to sleep better while the phone lies beside their head like a loaded weapon. That is not serious design. If you want a good habit to become obvious, put it where your eyes naturally land. Put the book on the pillow. Put the water bottle on the desk. Put the workout clothes near the door. Put the notebook open on the table. Put the guitar on a stand in the living room. Put the fruit in sight. Put the harmful behavior out of sight. Hide the apps. Remove the icons. Move the snacks. Charge the phone in another room. Make distraction less visible. Make discipline more visible. It is not enough to want better choices. You need to change what the room is suggesting to you. A good environment is a quiet coach. A bad environment is a silent trap. And most people keep living in traps they arrange themselves. There is another level to this. Cues are not only objects, they are also social and contextual. Certain places pull certain versions of you to the surface. Certain people normalize certain standards. Certain routines make certain choices more likely. If every break at work means gossip sugar and scrolling, that context is training a pattern. If every evening at home means television, snack food, and mental shutdown, that context is teaching the same lesson night after night. You need to stop acting like context is neutral. It is not neutral. It is shaping the default. That is why redesign is not overreaction. It is responsibility. The life you want will not appear in a room that keeps training the opposite version of you. So make one decision now. Stop waiting for good habits to appear out of nowhere. Build better cues. Make the right action visible enough to interrupt the old autopilot. Because if you do not control what keeps calling for your attention will keep being rented out to whatever is loudest, closest, and most rewarding in the moment. A better life begins with a clearer signal. Put the signal where you can see it, then answer it. Chapter 8. Make good habits more attractive. Seeing the right habit is not always enough. You can know exactly what you should do and still walk away from it. You can see the book and still choose the phone. You can see the workout clothes and still choose the couch. You can know the task matters and still avoid it. That is because visibility starts the behavior, but attraction helps sustain it. Your brain does not move only toward what is logical. It moves toward what feels appealing, rewarding, exciting, relieving, or emotionally meaningful. That is why bad habits can feel stronger than good intentions. They often sell pleasure faster. They promise comfort faster. They offer novelty, escape stimulation, and relief on demand. Good habits may lead somewhere better, but at the beginning, they often feel plain, quiet, slow, effortful. That is why you must stop expecting discipline to win, simply because the habit is right. You need to make the habit more attractive. You need to give your brain reasons to lean toward it instead of away from it. One of the strongest forces here is craving, and craving is shaped by association. Your brain learns to want what it has repeatedly linked to pleasure. That means you can train attraction, not just wait for it. Start with one truth. The culture around you is already shaping what you want. People copy what looks normal in their group. They imitate what is praised, visible, admired, and repeated around them. If everyone around you treats distraction like entertainment and self-neglect like normal life, you will feel friction when you try to live differently. If the people around you respect growth, focus training, reading work, and self-command, those behaviors begin to feel more natural. That is why your social environment matters. Join rooms where the habit you want is already standard. Follow people whose normal makes your old excuses look weak. Spend more time where discipline is respected instead of mocked. You do not need a crowd cheering for you every day, but you do need to stop placing yourself in environments where your best habits feel strange and your worst ones feel accepted. Attraction grows when a behavior belongs to an identity and a culture you value. Then use temptation bundling. This is simple and powerful. Pair something you want with something you need. Listen to your favorite music only while cleaning. Watch a specific show only while walking on the treadmill. Drink the coffee you enjoy during your reading session. Use the nice pen for your planning block. Sit in the comfortable chair only when doing focused work. The point is not to bribe yourself like a child. The point is to build emotional pull around the right action. Stop forcing yourself to approach every good habit as if it must feel hard, dry, and punishing from the first minute. That mindset makes people feel noble for suffering, but it does not help them repeat. The goal is not to prove that change hurts. The goal is to design change so it keeps happening. There is another layer. Reframe the habit itself. Most people kill attraction with the story they attach to effort. They say, I have to work out. I have to read. I have to save money. I have to write. I have to go to sleep early. Listen to that language. It sounds like punishment. It sounds like control. It sounds like a prison sentence. You are poisoning the habit with your own words. Change the frame. I get to train. I get to strengthen my body. I get to sharpen my mind. I get to build something. I get to protect my future. This is not fake positivity. It is accurate perspective. Many of the things you call burdens are actually privileges tied to the life you say you want. If you keep describing growth as pain and nothing else, your brain will keep resisting it. If you connect the habit to freedom, strength, self-respect, clarity, and identity, it becomes easier to want. Also remember, this anticipation is often stronger than the reward itself. That means the way you begin the habit matters. Create a starting ritual that pulls you in. Light the lamp. Clear the desk. Put on the same playlist. Open the notebook. Fill the bottle. Set the timer. Sit down. Breathe once. Begin. Ritual creates emotional familiarity, and familiarity reduces resistance. Your brain starts learning that this sequence leads into a meaningful state. That matters. You are not trying to make discipline childish. You are trying to make it repeatable, and repeatable beats dramatic every time. You also need to be careful about what currently feels attractive for the wrong reasons. Many bad habits are not only convenient, they are emotionally decorated. Scrolling feels like rest. Ordering junk food feels like reward. Skipping the hard task feels like relief. Complaining feels like release. Staying average feels safe because it removes the pressure of trying. You need to strip the false shine off those habits. Tell the truth about them. Scrolling is not rest if it leaves your mind scattered. Junk food is not a reward if it trains weakness and regret. Avoidance is not peace if it makes tomorrow heavier. Procrastination is not comfort if it slowly teaches you that your word means nothing. Bad habits survive because people keep describing them by the pleasure they offer now instead of the cost they create later. Reverse that. See clearly. Attraction changes when honesty gets sharper. Good habits become more attractive when you connect them to who you are becoming. Bad habits become less attractive when you stop lying about what they are doing to you. That is the work. Not waiting to magically desire the better life. Training desire to respect it. So here is the command. Make your good habits emotionally easier to approach. Pair them with something enjoyable. Reframe them in language that reflects their value. Build rituals that draw you in. Spend time in places where they look normal and strong. And strip the fake glamour off the habits that are costing you your future. Because what feels attractive today will shape what gets repeated tomorrow. Train attraction with intention, or your brain will keep craving whatever is easiest, loudest, and fastest. That is how people lose years. Do not lose yours. Chapter 9. Make good habits so easy. You cannot avoid them. People love hard plans because hard plans feel serious. They sound impressive. They let you imagine a stronger future without forcing you to face the weak reality of your current execution. That is why so many people create routines they do not keep. They build a schedule for an ideal version of themselves, not the one who actually has to wake up tired, work under pressure, deal with stress, fight distraction, and still show up when the mood is gone. Then, when they fail, they blame character. But the real problem was design. The habit was too heavy to survive ordinary life. If you want a habit to repeat, you need to make it easy. Not because you are lowering your standards forever, because you are building a bridge between intention and action. A bridge that exists will beat a fantasy every time. The third law is simple. Reduce friction for the good habit and increase friction for the bad one. People do what is convenient. They do what starts quickly. They do what fits the current shape of the day. That is why even a strong desire can lose to a clumsy setup. If the workout requires too many decisions, too much travel, too much preparation, and too much emotional effort, it will get skipped. If reading requires finding the book, clearing the space, sitting in the right mood, and having 30 free minutes, it will get delayed. If writing requires inspiration, silence, certainty, and a perfect block of time, it will remain a beautiful idea. You do not need more self-hate here. You need less friction. Prepare the clothes the night before. Leave the book open where you sit. Put the notebook on the desk. Use one click instead of 10. Make the first step so small that resistance looks weak. This is where the 2-minute rule matters. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to begin. Read one page. Do one push-up. Write one sentence. Open the document. Put on the shoes. Fill the bottle. Sit down to meditate for 1 minute. Why? Because the hardest part of most good habits is not the habit itself. It is the start. Once you begin, the system has a chance to carry you forward. But if the beginning feels heavy, the habit dies before it even starts. The 2-minute rule is not about shrinking your ambition. It is about mastering the doorway. A habit must be easy enough to enter before it can become hard enough to transform you. People reject this because their ego wants bigger proof. They say 1 page is nothing. 1 push-up is nothing. 1 sentence is nothing. That thinking is why they remain stuck. They are too proud to honor the first step, so they keep missing the staircase. Your future does not care how dramatic your start looked. It cares whether you repeated it. Also remember, this repetition matters more than duration at the beginning. You are not trying to build a heroic day. You are trying to build automatic return. Show up again, then expand. If you cannot do more, keep the floor. Protect the minimum. A habit that survives bad days becomes real. A habit that only exists on perfect days is still fantasy. Another tool here is standardization before optimization. Stop trying to do the habit in the best possible way from day one. First, make it regular, then make it better. First, become the kind of person who trains. Then, worry about the ideal program. First, become the kind of person who writes daily. Then worry about the perfect process. First, become the kind of person who reads consistently. Then chase volume. Consistency before intensity. Repetition before refinement. That is how you stop building habits that collapse under their own ambition. Then you need to make bad habits harder. Add friction. Delete the apps. Log out. Put the snacks high up or out of the house. Remove the remote from the room. Use blockers. Turn off autoplay. Leave the phone in another space. Let the bad habit require more steps, more effort, and more time. Convenience feeds repetition. Inconvenience breaks it. Do not keep giving your worst tendencies the fastest path. Build obstacles. Use laziness against the bad habit instead of against yourself. There is also power in committing to a smaller version that still counts. 5 minutes of reading still counts. 10 minutes of walking still count. 1 paragraph still counts. 1 clean meal still counts. You are teaching identity and continuity. You are teaching your life that the habit still exists. Do not underestimate that. The danger is not doing less on one day. The danger is breaking the relationship with the habit and letting absence become normal. Easy does not mean meaningless. Easy means repeatable. Easy means your habit can survive reality. Easy means you have stopped confusing suffering with progress. Progress is not how hard the plan sounded at the beginning. Progress is what is still standing after bad moods, busy days, and low-energy evenings. So stop building routines that flatter your ego and fail your life. Build one your real self can carry. Make it easier to start, easier to continue, easier to return to after a miss. Because once the behavior becomes regular, strength can be added. Duration can be added. Intensity can be added. But first, the habit must live. Make it small enough to live. Then, make it strong enough to grow. Chapter 10. Make good habits feel rewarding. You can make a habit obvious. You can make it attractive. You can make it easy. But if it never feels rewarding enough to continue, many people will still quit before the real results arrive. That is the final problem. Human beings are pulled by immediate satisfaction. We do not only do what is right, we repeat what feels worth repeating now. That is why bad habits keep winning early. They usually pay fast and charge later. Good habits often charge now and pay later. Junk food tastes good immediately. Scrolling gives stimulation immediately. Avoidance gives relief immediately. Complaining gives release immediately. But reading training, saving writing, sleeping well, practicing patience, building skill, protecting focus, and keeping structure often feel costly at first. The reward is delayed. The change is delayed. The proof is delayed. That is where good systems die. Not because the method was wrong, but because the person could not feel enough progress to stay loyal. You must solve that. If you want a good habit to survive long enough to change your life, you need to give it some form of immediate satisfaction. Not fake satisfaction, not empty celebration. Clear evidence, visible movement, a sense that the habit is alive and being kept. This is where a habit tracker becomes powerful. You mark the day, you record the action, you make the invisible visible. That matters because the brain needs proof. A chain of completed days tells a story. It says, I am showing up. I am not just talking. I am building evidence. You may not have the final result yet, but you have today's mark. You have one more repetition, one more vote, one more piece of proof. That is enough to keep the loop moving. Do not underestimate the power of seeing a streak. A streak gives shape to commitment. It makes the habit feel real in the present. Not only important in theory, this connects to a simple rule: do not break the chain. The chain does not need to be perfect forever, but it needs to feel alive. When people see continuity, they want to protect it. Missing once may happen. Life can hit hard, but do not let one miss become a new pattern. Guard the return. Because the real danger is rarely one bad day. The danger is the story that grows after it. I already broke it. I lost momentum. I will restart later. That thinking kills more habits than difficulty does. Your job is to keep the chain emotionally valuable. Keep the sense that the identity is still moving. When the chain matters, showing up becomes easier. Then there is accountability. Many people hate that word because it threatens the private comfort of excuses. Good. Let it threaten that comfort. Left alone, the mind can negotiate with itself all day. It can redefine standards. It can justify delay. It can promise tomorrow. It can hide. But when another person is involved, the standard becomes harder to blur. An accountability partner, a coach, a group, even a simple report sent to a friend can strengthen the reward loop because you are no longer acting in total secrecy. The behavior now carries social weight. That can help weekdays survive. You are not handing over responsibility. You are reinforcing it. Then there is the habit contract. Put consequences in writing. If I miss this behavior without a real reason, I lose money. I owe a task. I report it. I give up a privilege. Why does that matter? Because vague commitment is cheap. People say they are serious while building no cost for betrayal. Then they wonder why their word feels weak to them. A contract introduces consequence. It raises the price of drift. And sometimes that is exactly what a soft mind needs. Not more discussion, more clarity. You also need to learn how to measure the right thing. If your only reward is the final outcome, you will quit too soon. Your body may not look different yet. Your income may not be higher yet. Your skill may not be obvious yet. But progress is still happening if you are showing up, reducing friction, protecting the chain, and increasing evidence for the identity. Measure those things. Count the sessions. Count the pages. Count the days you kept the promise. Count the times you returned quickly after a slip. Count the evenings you protected your attention instead of wasting it. Those are not fake metrics. They are the roots of the visible future. A person who only respects the fruit and ignores the roots will keep uprooting their own progress. Immediate satisfaction does not have to mean childish reward. It means clear feedback. It means the habit leaves a trace. It means the action feels acknowledged now, not only someday in the future. That is how you help a good habit survive the early stage when results are still quiet. You make the repetition satisfying enough to continue. You make progress visible enough to trust. You make the standard real enough to protect. So do not leave your best habits starving in the present while asking them to feed your future. Give them fuel now. Track them. Guard the chain. Use accountability. Use contracts. Build feedback. Because if a good habit feels empty for too long, many people will abandon it before compounding has a chance to speak. Do not let that happen. Make the habit rewarding enough to live through the silent phase. Then keep going. The big result can arrive later. Your job now is to keep the behavior alive long enough for later to come. Chapter 11. Why most people quit too early. Most people do not fail because they chose the wrong dream. They do not fail because they had no potential. They do not fail because they were never capable of changing. They fail because they leave too early. They walk away in the exact season when the work is real, but the reward is still quiet. They do the hard part. They begin. They show up. They resist old habits. They carry the weight of change for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. But then, the same question starts poisoning their effort. I am doing the work, so why is nothing changing? That question has ended more progress than laziness ever did. Because once it is repeated with enough doubt, people start turning against the very system that was beginning to help them. They stop trusting the process. They stop respecting compounding. They stop measuring the right things. They confuse delayed proof with failed effort, and then they quit. That is why you need to understand one of the most dangerous places in all growth, the valley of disappointment. This is the stage where effort has gone in but visible return has not caught up yet. This is the stage where your new habits are real, but your old results are still hanging around like a bad echo. This is the stage where the scale has barely moved, the money has barely grown, the body has barely changed, the skill still feels clumsy, the attention still feels imperfect, and the outside world still cannot see what you are building. That valley is where people become emotionally reckless. They stop reading the truth correctly. They say, maybe this is not working. Maybe I am wasting my time. Maybe I am still the same person. Maybe I do not have what it takes. No. Slow proof does not mean no progress. Invisible growth does not mean false growth. Delayed reward does not mean wasted effort. It means you are in the stage most people never survive. And that is exactly why surviving it matters. Think about how compounding really works. At the beginning, the curve is quiet. It does not look impressive. It does not flatter your ego. It does not entertain your impatience. It asks for repetition before it gives you applause. It asks for loyalty before it gives you evidence. That is why weak people leave. They want emotional payment too fast. They want public results before private structure has had time to harden. They want the fruit before the roots have had time to take hold. Real growth rarely works that way. Real growth is often hidden at first. The new habit is becoming more normal, but the result is still small. The identity is getting stronger, but the mirror still looks familiar. The work ethic is deepening, but the scoreboard has not moved enough to impress anyone. That is not failure. That is the price of real transformation. The problem is that people are often strongest at the beginning when everything feels new. The new notebook is clean. The plan feels exciting. The vision is loud. Starting feels heroic. But after the early excitement fades, the real test begins. Can you keep doing the right thing when the reward is late? Can you stay loyal when your emotions are no longer being fed? Can you protect the habit when the outside world has not yet given you a reason to feel validated? That is where most people break, not in the first burst of discipline, in the quiet middle, in the long stretch between decision and visible payoff, in the valley. That is why you must stop using visible outcomes as your only standard for whether progress is happening. That standard is too shallow. It is too late. It only sees the surface. By the time a result becomes obvious, the deeper work has already been happening for a while. The better question is this: am I building evidence for the right identity? Am I keeping the system alive? Am I repeating the right behavior often enough for compounding to have a chance? Those questions are stronger because they measure what you can control right now. Most people say they want change, but what they really want is early reassurance. They want to know quickly that the effort will pay off. They want certainty before they have earned certainty. Life does not work that way. Change demands trust before it offers proof. That is why this chapter matters. You need to understand that delayed returns are not a flaw in the process. They are part of the process. Fitness works like that. Writing works like that. Saving money works like that. Learning works like that. Building focus works like that. Most valuable things grow in a way that looks slow until it suddenly looks obvious. The people who win are often not the most talented. They are the ones who did not insult the process by quitting in the invisible stage. They stayed long enough for the hidden work to become visible. That is the whole game. Staying long enough. But hear this clearly. Persistence is not the same as stupidity. Blind persistence is not noble. If your system is random, if your behavior is inconsistent, if your method has no structure, no measurement, and no adjustment, then repeating the same chaos is not discipline. It is drift with effort attached. Real persistence is different. Real persistence means you are following a design system. You are using the tools. You are tracking the behavior. You are reducing friction. You are reinforcing the right cues. You are making the good habit visible, attractive, easy, and satisfying. You are staying in the game long enough for those systems to work. That is not blindness. That is intelligent patience. There is a huge difference between refusing to quit and refusing to think. Do not confuse them. If you are learning, measuring, adjusting, and still staying loyal to the process, then you are not wasting time. You are building. You are paying the quiet price every meaningful result requires. This is also where you must redefine progress. Progress is not only the big external result. Progress is not only the lower number on the scale, the higher number in the bank, the finished project, the public proof. Progress is also the number of days you kept the habit alive. It is the number of times you came back quickly after missing once. It is the number of evenings you protected your attention. It is the number of times you reduced friction instead of negotiating with weakness. It is the number of votes you cast for the identity you are trying to build. That is not fake progress. That is root-level progress. That is the kind of progress that creates the visible result later. If you keep disrespecting those signs just because they are not dramatic yet, you will keep betraying your own future at the worst possible moment. So stop asking only, where is the result? Ask, have I been showing up? Ask, have I kept the system alive? Ask, have I built more evidence than I had 30 days ago? Ask, have I become more consistent, more aware, more honest, more structured, more difficult for my old habits to control? That is real progress. And if the answer is yes, do not walk away just because the reward is late. Hold the line. Most people leave just before the direction starts to bend. They stop one season too early. They break faith with themselves one stretch too soon. Do not be one of them. When you are in the valley of disappointment, do not panic. Do not romanticize quitting. Do not insult the quiet work because it has not become visible yet. Respect the delay. Respect the hidden respect the compounding you cannot fully see yet. Because many people do not lose because the method failed. They lose because they quit before the method had time to speak. Stay long enough to hear it. Chapter 12. Build a life that repeats the right things. The book comes down to one final truth. Change is not a campaign. It is not a 30-day emotional sprint. It is not a brief season of trying hard and hoping your future somehow respects the intensity of one motivated month. Change that lasts is life design. It is structure. It is a way of living that keeps pulling you back toward the right actions long after the excitement of starting is gone. That is the real battle. Not whether you can feel inspired once. Not whether you can make a bold promise on a strong day. The real battle is whether your life is built in a way that keeps the right behavior repeating long enough to change your direction. That is what this whole book has been teaching you. Small habits create big direction. Goals are not enough if the system underneath them is weak. Identity matters more than outcome because repeated action becomes evidence for who you are becoming. Habits are not mysterious or moral failures. They follow a loop: cue, craving, response, reward. And because they follow a loop, they can be redesigned. Then the 4 laws gave you the tools. Make the good habit obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it satisfying. Do the reverse for what is hurting you. This is not motivational language. This is behavior design. This is structure. This is how you stop treating self-change like a mood and start treating it like architecture. But now, you need to understand what a better life really means. A better life does not mean a life that never slips. It does not mean you become perfect, mechanical, emotionless, or untouchable. It does not mean you never miss a day, never get tired, never lose focus, never feel weak, never face stress, never stumble. That fantasy is childish. It makes people break the moment reality shows up. A better life is simpler and stronger than that. A better life is one where you slip less often, return more quickly, and live inside a system that pulls you back to the right path faster than before. A better life is not one with no friction. It is one with better defaults, better cues, better boundaries, better recovery, better honesty, better repetition. That is maturity. That is how real change survives. So stop asking for a life where discipline feels easy every hour. Build a life where the right action has more support than the wrong one. Build a life where your environment is no longer feeding your weakness all day. Build a life where your mornings do not begin with surrender. Build a life where your standards are visible. Build a life where your habits are not floating in vague intention, but anchored in time, place, sequence, and design. Build a life where your identity is being strengthened by evidence, not weakened by negotiation. This is the shift from tactics to lifestyle. And that is exactly what many people avoid, because it sounds more serious than a temporary plan. Good. It should sound serious. Your life deserves seriousness. You are not trying to win one week. You are trying to build a future that can carry weight. That means you need commitments, not wishes. So make them now. Decide what signal you will build. What habit needs to become obvious in your world? Where will you place it? When will it happen? What existing action will carry it? Then decide what attraction you will build. How will you reframe the habit so your brain sees its value clearly? What reward will you pair with it? What culture? What people? What environment will make the right action feel more normal and more desirable? Then decide what ease you will build. How will you reduce friction? What is the 2-minute version? What must be prepared in advance? What can be simplified? What can be removed? What can be made so easy that your old excuses start sounding weak even to you? Then decide what satisfaction you will build. How will you track it? How will you keep the chain alive? Who will hold you accountable? What cost will exist if you betray the standard? What visible proof will keep the habit emotionally alive before the bigger result arrives? This is the work. Not dreaming harder, designing better. And from this point forward, you need to stop seeing these tools as tricks. They are not tricks. They are how you live. They are how you protect your future from the version of you that still wants comfort more than growth. They are how you stop waiting for motivation to rescue you. They are how you stop turning every bad day into a collapse. Because once a life is designed well, a hard day is still a hard day, but it does not get the final word. The system catches you. The structure brings you back. The habit has a path home. That is power. That is what you are really trying to build. Not a life where you never struggle. A life where struggle does not get to decide your direction anymore. You also need to leave behind the old identity, the one that says, I will do it when I feel ready. I will start when life is calmer. I will become disciplined when I find the right mood. I will change when motivation returns. No, that person is still waiting to be carried by emotion. That person is still outsourcing responsibility to feeling. You cannot keep that identity and still build the future you want. From now on, your identity must be clearer. I am someone who designs my life so the right things happen more often. I am someone who respects small actions because they shape big direction. I am someone who returns quickly after a miss. I am someone who does not beg mood for permission. I am someone who builds with repetition. That is the identity that can survive real life, not because it is dramatic, because it is durable. And durability is what changes a life. So here is the final command. Do not leave this book inspired and empty-handed. Leave with one habit, one small behavior that actually matters. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Then repeat it, protect it, track it, return to it. Hold the line long enough for it to begin changing not only your results, but the person doing the work. That is how a different life begins. Not with noise, not with fantasy, not with a perfect plan you never keep. With one designed behavior repeated long enough to become evidence, then identity, then direction, then destiny. You do not need to rebuild your whole life tonight, but you do need to stop leaving your life to chance. Pick the habit, design the system, start the repetition, keep it alive, because the future you want will not be built by what you hope happens. It will be built by what your daily life keeps repeating. Build a life that repeats the right things. Then let time do what time always does. Let it compound.